Only Norwich, Newcastle and Leeds have let in more goals than Leicester in the Premier League this season. 33 so far. 48 goals in 27 games so far in all competitions. But we know what the issues are in terms of those defensive injuries and how they've affected the team. I think it's pretty difficult to be harsh when you think Ricardo Pereira, the latest injury, but he was out earlier on this season. Bad injury for Fofana. Soyuncu's out, Evans out, Justin long-term injury as well. Whether we should be claiming that Leicester City should be performing better, especially defensively, given all of those injuries.
Well, consistently over the last few seasons, Brendan Rodgers has been able to put out a side with his best players. And for the first time, he's not able to do that. And obviously, that's showing in the results. You can't, for a club like Leicester, in Brendan's defence, you can't perform at the level that they would like to perform at to finish fifth in the Premier League without those players being available to you. You just can't. So, there are genuine circumstances for him.
Conceding 6 against Manchester City, though, a club of Leicester's quality, we would imagine that they could perform better than that. I know there were a couple of penalties in the first half and a very contentious decision. Yuri Tielemans on Laporte that they didn't think was a penalty, but still it would have been 3-0 at half-time, and they wouldn't, at that point in time, you're out of the game against a side as good as Manchester City.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, let's get this right. I mean, that's 9 on the spin for Man City, so you're playing a very exceptional football team, but you wouldn't want to concede as many goals as that but without your recognised central defenders, without your defenders in the side, you are going to concede goals, and Man City are banging form. They can, both Liverpool and Man City, they can go through the gears whenever they're ready to go through the gears. He needs to get their players back. Some of them are on long-term injuries. He might have to do something in the market. I actually think, no disrespect to Leicester, I think they also have overachieved the last couple of seasons. They really have. And so when you look at what the other clubs have done now, you look at you've got your main sort of 4 clubs in terms of your Man United, Man City, Chelsea and Liverpool. Look at Spurs bringing in Conte now. You look at what Arsenal have done with Arteta, the money that they've spent. What has Brendan Rodgers, as well as finish in fifth in the Premier League the last couple of seasons, what has he actually been able to spend and strengthen his squad? He hasn't been able to do that. Unfortunately, you've seen the same with West Ham. Without your recognised players, you're in Europe, so you're talking a lot of football matches. You're going to lose. You're going to lose matches. Realistically, if Leicester were to finish 7th in the Premier League this season, would that be a disappointment? I don't think so. Some Leicester City fans might have a go at me for that, but yeah. I don't think so. Given what all the other top teams have done in terms of what they've done with the transfer.
If they were to finish outside the top 7, I think most Leicester fans would say that's a disappointment.
No, sure. I would agree with you on that one.
And it looks like they could. I mean, if all the teams there at the moment stay there, West Ham, Arsenal, Tottenham, and that top 4 that you mentioned, then you'd have to say it will be a disappointing season.
Well, I think they're capable of finishing, say, 8th, so just behind, so is 8th that bad of a season for a club like Leicester?
I don't know. Well, listen, to say that they haven't spent money, I think is, I think over the last 3 seasons, whether you think this is a lot of money or not, they've spent about £215 million over 3 summer transfer windows. The players that came in this summer, they were padding the squad. It was to do with giving support to their starting 11 so that they could cope with both being in Europe and being in the Premier League. Of course, they never saw the number of injuries coming, and that has affected them massively. But I do think just in terms of the money spent, that they have been trying to do their best to keep up with some of those clubs that you mentioned. It's just very unfortunate that the injuries have come their way. But if it continues, if they keep leaking goals, is the injury still an excuse?
Oh, listen, it's not an excuse. It's a fact. If you've got your players, your regular first team players that over the last couple of seasons, Brendan's been able to put out consistently. He's been able to put those players out week in and week out. He hasn't been able to do that. Don't get me wrong. Before that, they weren't playing as well as what they played last season. That is for sure. And then there's an argument of have they overachieved the last couple of seasons, which, they've done very, very well. So I think you have to be realistic. The talk of Brendan Rodgers being sacked, I think, is crazy and ludicrous at this moment in time, given what he's done with the football club. He's got to be given time to get players back, maybe go into the transfer market in January and bring a couple of defenders in, because some of the players are out long term. But the one thing you don't have in football is time, and people have very short memories.
I think he needs time. We were talking a little bit earlier on about Mikel Arteta and the fact that, the fact that they've supported him through tough times looks like it's going to pay dividends. I think at Leicester City, you need to give Brendan Rodgers time. He hasn't been the manager for that long. It's not like he's been there for 5 or 6 years. This is the first real dip. They've won the FA Cup, of course. I think if they finish mid-table this year, it would be a huge disappointment, but you still have to stick by Brendan Rodgers and hope that when the players come back from injury next year, you can have a really, really positive season. Yeah,
for sure. Like I said, if he can get them to round about 7th or 8th place in the Premier League, given the circumstances that they faced at the moment, I think it'll be a decent season for Leicester.
If they were to sack him, I think it would be... it's one of those be careful what you wish for situations. I think he is a very, very good manager. Leicester City have a manager who could easily go to a top team next. I mean, we're talking about who might become the Manchester United boss next year, for example. And so many people talk about Erik ten Hag at Ajax and Mauricio Pochettino, who, of course, they both have fantastic records. Of course, Pochettino's at PSG at the moment with a great team. Doesn't look like they're going to win the Champions League if they continue playing how they're playing. They'll probably walk the French league, but they're dropping points there as well. It's not like he's pulling up any trees right now in Paris, and he's the favourite to take over at Manchester United. But if Brendan Rodgers were available right now, the other two not, maybe, and this is a massive maybe, don't scream at the radio, that might, that puts him in the back pages, that puts him in the conversations and the mouths of all the people who talk about who should be the next manager of Manchester United. I think Ten Hag, in terms of his trophy-winning record, of course, is above the other two because he's been in the Eredivisie. But actually, when you think about what's been achieved by Brendan Rodgers at Celtic and at Leicester City in particular, 2 fifth-place finishes and an FA Cup win, he's finished second previously at Liverpool. He I think, would want to say, well, hold on a minute, what's Mauricio Pochettino done that puts him so far ahead of me if we're talking about a big job like Manchester United? And I would tend to agree with him on that. And I'm a huge fan of Pochettino, but I am of Rodgers as well.
Listen, you can't listen. The facts are the facts. You can't argue with what he's done. That's there for everybody to see. But let's be right about this. Any job that comes up, he's got a very good agent as Brendan, because he's got linked with every job.
He's also done the business as a manager. It's not just his agent.
Listen, I think Celtics are given up there.
Treble.
Yeah, but
another treble.
Celtics are given. I think what he's done at Leicester is much more
noteworthy.
Yeah, and eye-catching of what he's done in winning the FA Cup and 2 top 5 finishes. Listen, we all know Pochettino's the number 1 for Man United. They've made that clear. He's on an 18-month contract. You go to
who's the better coach?
Do you know what I think the problem is here? It's not who's the better coach, who's the better style of play. And I think the hierarchy at Man United think that Pochettino is going to bring a style of play that they want to see being played at Old Trafford. And if he doesn't win, that if you don't win the Champions League at the club he's at, you're out of there. That's the leagues are given, so Pochettino has to win the Champions League. Otherwise, it's not a project there. You're given the money to deliver, right? I think he wants to get into a project, which Manchester United is a project. But no, there's no arguments. Listen, the one thing about it, whether you like Brendan Rodgers or not, you have to deal with the facts, and the facts are he's won the FA Cup and finished twice in 5th and 5th, and if he can, with his injuries and whatever, get the team to finish 7th or 8th in the Premier League this season again, that would be a fantastic achievement.
Jim White and Simon Jordan, Monday to Thursday morning, 10 till 1, on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.